You know, what is it about the times in our life where we feel most tiny, we feel most impoverished of the ways we want to feel, that something so much deeper can be found within us? What is it about a time where we go through actual adversity, whether in the mind or in the physical world, and we feel like we have no control over it? What is that feeling? What is it to feel like you have no might? We live in such a world of control and diversity and different actions and things to do. Yet so much of the time, the things that we do feel pointless. They feel like we're just doing them to do them at times. I know in my journey, this is most commonly felt for me whenever there's something that I need to look at deeper. There's something that I'm missing, something that's under the covers of my mind that really wants to be expressed, but something inside of me, something in my subconscious, something in the lower levels of me doesn't know how to get me to see it, doesn't know how to express it. But it wants to be expressed, it wants to be familiarized with my conscious, with my true thinking. But instead it finds its way into sometimes purgatory, a state of the mind where it doesn't get in, it doesn't get out, so it doesn't get expressed, so it just ruminates. It ruminates within and causes disorder and clutter of the mind. Many times this is where we end up at, and we don't even realize, once again, because we fall into these different situations of disorderly mindful conduct where we think we're doing what we're meant to do, but really we're just doing what we want to do in one way or another. When I say what we want to do, I mean what our ego wants to do. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware the ego a lot of times will run our life. It'll run the way that we think and feel. But to live a truly meaningful and satisfying, sustainable life, the ego must be not eliminated, because it can't be eliminated, but it must be, I've heard it expressed before by an old teacher, what is it? Tamed, taught, and transcended. Meaning you first must tame the animal that it is. And many times in life, the ego runs us. It runs who we are, it runs who we think we are, it runs where we're going, it runs everything that we think about life. So in those first beginning stages, or even throughout the journey, we must get back in control of the ego, because we've lost that very control. We've lost that understanding of the ego and how it's running us. Many different situations in life will allow us to tame our ego if we take the accountability that it takes to see the ego for what it is. Oftentimes the people with the strongest ego in negative ways are really unaccountable people. But after it's tamed, after we look at it in the eyes and see that part of ourselves for what it is, which is, again, a part of ourselves, then it can be tamed through the right kind of action, through the right kind of dissociation from different identities and different ways of being. And once it is tamed, it can then be taught. It can then be, once it's sat down and rested for some time, it's taught, it's kept tame. Then we can then go and utilize it in an endeavor that we know is rightful to our spirit, that we know is rightful to our calling. And again, learning what that is a different subject altogether as well. But once it's tamed, then we can teach it. We can teach it. Okay, this is the mission. This is the journey. This is the vision. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. These are all the right reasons for us to be doing what we're doing. Now I'm going to use you. Now, as my ego, you're going to help me get to where I need to go in the right ways. All that power, all that ability you had before to make things happen in the right way. Well, to make things happen, now we're going to use it in the right way. That's the teaching, right? That's the teaching. That's the intertwining it into the rightful paths in your life, the things that you know you're meant to be doing, right? And as you teach it and as you work it into your life, into who you know you are meant to be, and you watch the synchronicities fall into place, and you continue to ask God or your higher power or your higher self, whatever it is for you, where this journey is taking you, right? Like you know your goals, but sometimes we just know we're heading in the right direction. Or sometimes we know that we're heading towards a goal of one kind or another, but the things line up in a weird way, and we might just know that we're heading in the right direction if we have that strong faith, right? So as we're going through that and we're looking at our ego eye to eye and say, okay, we're doing the right things here. You're listening very well, and I appreciate you. Well, as we go through that process and as we go through the trials and tribulations, you could say, at some point, we transcend. That's the base understanding that I have of the transcend part. Obviously, let me not say obviously, but the transcend part is something I'm not exactly familiar with. At least I do not believe so. The taming and teaching is something that I've gone through iterations of throughout the past 5-6 years of my life, I'd say. And I believe that's how we all are. Truthfully, more research should be done on my part on the transcendence part of it. Because, I mean, you could say transcendence, for me, the first idea is moving throughout the different trajectories, right? Perhaps that's the true meaning of the process, and then what I'm missing here in my own depiction of it. You tame it to get in front of the forceful ways that you are so used to being, the forceful things that you are used to going after, right? You tame it and you allow yourself to get back in control rather than your ego in control. Then you teach it. You say, hey, this is the actual thing that we're going for, and here are all the right reasons. Now you're going to help me get there. And then you transcend it by accomplishing the goal, getting further on the journey, getting to that point in the journey where you can then say, okay, I've accomplished this thing through the help of my ego. Now it's time to take the step back again, because perhaps my ego's gotten in control again, or it has more control than it needs to have. So constantly playing this great balancing act. All in this particular situation built around the ego, the side of us that just wants to make things happen in the way that it wants to happen. When we all know, or at least I've come to learn, I should say, many things don't just happen the way that we want them to happen. Most of the time it'll end up occurring in a way that's much better than what we could have imagined. But in my journey, the things that I've tried to force and make absolute happen never worked out the best way. And they actually worked out a lot better when I let go of the need for them to work out in those ways. So it's an odd journey, once again, and to come back to where I started with, when it comes to those times where we feel most powerless, when we feel like the things we're doing aren't making a difference, it can be so discouraging. It can hurt. But those are the times that really make you solidify your stance and where you're going, why you're going there. Because many of us fall off. Many of us fall back to our old patterns and our old self and our old egos when the things get tough and the road gets hard to understand, becomes hard to understand. But it's in those times where we re-enlist our faith and we re-enlist our ego in the right pursuit. And we allow ourselves to fully see what it is that we're trying to do in the right way. That is how the difference is made over the long term. That is how we solidify our stance and continue working towards what we're meant to be working towards. My friends, it's all one day at a time, as always. I feel like I say that 1,000 times a week, but it's the truth. And perhaps it's something that I tell myself because it's something that I've battled with for quite some time. I've always, ever since I got in action, tried to strive as absolute hard as I can to everything that I wanted to make happen. My ego was very much in control for a long time, and though I was putting time, energy, and effort into positive, purposeful, or not, let me not say purposeful, positive kind of endeavors that helped me grow, my energy was very much needy. My energy was very much forceful, and thus they ended up being exactly what they were meant to be, which was really just stepping stones. But it was never like the goal I set out for was what I actually accomplished in most given situations. When I was coming from that needy energy, that energy that was untamed ego and just needing to have the solution. So, just some thoughts from the day. If you enjoyed this, let me know. I really want to get this channel back going again. Speaking to you guys on here. I mean, some of you can probably tell I'm speaking to myself. I'm reflecting in my own way, and that's why I'm a big advocate for content creation for just anybody in general. You can watch from my early on videos that my skill levels in terms of speaking and ideation and different things have completely changed. Of course, I've done different things outside of YouTube as well, getting on real stages and that kind of thing. But anyways, I want to get back on track with making content here in different ways. I'm going on a trip here this week with my cousin. We're going to a leadership summit here in Atlanta. I say here, I mean 4 or 5 hours down the road from South Carolina here. And I want to make some content around that. So let me know what you guys think of this. Drop me some comments below. I'm always here to chat with any of you. Guys, it's one day at a time. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy why it is that you're here. That even if you don't know why it is that you're here yet, you deserve it, man. God bless.